and they have every intention of doing away with billions of us over these next few years, and that assault is being driven by some level of fear on their part that we can't really reconcile. We don't know what it is they're afraid of down to a definitive statement, but we know that they're afraid, and it makes the world a little bit strange.
We know that they're afraid.
Yes, we do. From the language that's going on and showing up in various places, from YouTube all the way through Council on Foreign Relations, various different subsets of the Bilderbergers et al., all the bankers, we see that the central bank and warfare model, as Catherine Austin Fitts calls it, is at its core is very afraid of circumstances emerging over these next few years.
And people do strange things when they are acting out of fear.
Yes, they do. Unpredictable or predictably wild in their approach to things, and so it becomes a very dangerous time, yes. Kind
of a curious side note, one of the things we talk about, we have been Clif High and others of actually taking fresh, just grass-fed glands like adrenals and thyroid from grass-fed cows in Buffalo, and then eating those to build our thyroid. Very powerful. A friend of mine was ordering from a company in Oregon, North Star Bison, or thyroids. The last time he went to order, they said, well, we can't sell you that unless you have a prescription from your doctor.
Now, that's odd.
Isn't that curious?
Yeah.
A thyroid.
It's quite strange.
So, man, it's interesting. Okay, lots of emails. This one from South Africa. I have a couple of questions. In Volume 0, Issue 1 of The Shapes of Things to Come, you make mention of derivatives collapse. However, in the latest report, you don't make any mention of derivatives. Does this mean that the linguistics have changed concerning derivatives? Is the financial system still in danger of a derivatives collapse? And I think there's like 1.25 quadrillion derivatives in that neighborhood. Yeah.
Basically, I need to let people know that no, it doesn't work that way. If we don't bring up a subject from one issue to the next, it means not enough has changed for us to visit that subject again, because there's no further enlightenment to be gleaned from the few changes that have occurred. So in this sense, the answer is no, nothing has changed, and yes, the derivative melt is occurring now. It's not being held in abeyance. It actually started on August 22nd, was our first notice of it in that week. The Chinese had met in June, I guess, to make their decision to not participate in the fraud that we call derivatives, and that was basically the point of the boot that was going to do in the derivatives here, and it's ongoing. We expect the next big problem will develop over the course of October and appear in the latter part of October, but certainly will be manifest globally in the November 4th, 5th, or 6th period.
Oh, you mean coming up very soon?
Oh, yeah, yes, within a month, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is this October 25 date that George Ure mentions from time to time? What's going on?
It has to do with the first broad category of our language. In order to do what we do, we have to be reductionist to a certain point. So we slice all of our language into two big categories, release language or building tension language. And these are related to how human body expresses itself or feels or reacts to particular kinds of language. So release language is anger language, where your hands are flailing around and you're jumping up and down and shouting and your blood's coursing, etc., and you're all red in the face. Building tension language is the opposite. It's when you come across something suddenly that's scary. I don't know, it varies where you are in the planet, but you get that tightening of the abdomen, that inrush of breath, and the sort of gasp, and all your muscles go tense as you're ready to respond to something. Within those two categories, we sum up all of the language, and at the moment we're in a release period that went from mid-August, about the 15th, 16th, something like that, and runs all the way through to October 25, and a fairly oriented, slanted down, or more intensifying of release language. But on October 25th, for some reason, we, as a planet, do a sudden sharp swing and go into building tension language that's very steep for 10 and a half days. And it's a rather troubling, from our viewpoint, graphic thing to look at, because it implies something on the order of maybe a Cuban Missile Crisis, kind of a scenario in the sense of maybe the Israelis attack Iran and things are upset for 10 days and everybody's in essence holding their abdomen tight and their breath for 10 days waiting to see how it resolves.
Boy, this Iran thing looks like this is a done deal.
Doesn't it, though? It's very sad. Mm-hmm. Very, very, very sad.
Let's go back to the calls. Where are you calling from? What's your first name?
My name is Lauren, and I'm calling from Tennessee.
Go ahead. You're on the air.
Hi, Cliff. I had a question about I know you've acknowledged the harmony between your work and Terence McKenna's in the past with the Time Wave Zero. And I've watched the track of his graphs and your work, and it matches up almost exactly. So we have this year, the 25th date is the point of maximum novelty on the time wave graph. So it matches up once again. I just wondered if you would speak to that anymore. And then also in 2010 on the time wave, we see a sharp drop off in the novelty around mid-November, which looks a lot like what we saw last year with October 7th. So I wondered if you'd comment on that at all, if you'd seen that at all in your in the work for 2010.
Yeah, I mean, that is indeed the projection for from our building intention summations. I have not looked at the time wave zero graph in a long time, so it doesn't surprise me, because I get astrologers that also call in and say, oh, geez, you know, on October 25th, there's this alignment and that alignment, and boy, we're all really screwed. It's like, okay, that's fine. I don't know if enough astrology. I'm sure McKenna is absolutely accurate in how he did his time wave zero stuff, and it strikes me as just brilliant. And it's one of those things where I wish I'd run across it when it was occurring, and I could have studied it for the past 20 years and really been aware of what the core of it is, because it probably is a lot easier to get to the same results or similar results as what we've got. And indeed, the graph is basically on our end, it's going to be kind of choppy from November of this year to November of 2010, and then we get this big drop down into 2011 that is coincident with what we're calling the alien wars. And if McKenna's, I don't know which way his graphs go, but I think that if they drop down, they're going into more novelty. And if that's the case, then that would really fit with Alien Wars, because it probably isn't going to get much more novel than that.
Are we speaking like really Alien Wars?
Oh, yes. Yes. Not necessarily aliens shooting at each other or us shooting at aliens, but some permutation of the idea of contention, conflict, maybe just even internal, as we're all trying to wrestle with the idea that all of a sudden there's alien tourists on the planet and we got to react or something like that.
Boy, wouldn't that just be like cream on the coffee with all this stuff going on in the 2012 era? Boy, that would really be a party, wouldn't it?
Well, it's going to be. I mean, we see it as a fact. Bear in mind now, the way that we do things here, we're living 2 years out in the future pretty much all the time.
Yeah.
So to us, it's an accomplished fact that the alien war business is going to erupt in that period of time.
That's wild.
Yeah. The one last thing we have to say about our stuff is that our charts, if we do them on a increasing frequency basis, and they're just a bear to do, but if we do them often enough, we do see a deviation from McKenna's work, and his work is a little bit more static, and ours changes from run to run. But it's very curious that his method of doing the time wave zero stuff actually, outside of the novelty and whatever else he called it, static or something for the regular language, it does seem to reconcile to the release in the building tension very appropriately, I think. And so in that sense, that isn't good, because anything reinforcing these ideas within our work is, it means the universe is putting more substance behind it, and it makes it that much scarier.
Okay. Thanks for the call, 888-663-6386. Lots of calls is pouring in, so if you get a busy signal, just hang up and try again. Here's an email for Clif. Thanks for having Clif on the show. Very important information. If Israel strikes Iran and uranium is caught up in the jet stream, what should we do in the U.S. to protect ourselves? Should we quarantine ourselves with our pets in an enclosed area with food, water, and supplies? If so, for what period of time should we take this precaution? That's a curious thing that I've not heard about, this idea of uranium in the jet stream.
Here's the scenario. Basically, the language would suggest that the Israelis attack Iran. The first and second level of targets are somehow not able to be gotten at. They use some kind of a bunker buster on a tertiary level of target, a third level of target, which turns out to have some kind of a nuclear component, and we think is somehow like over an oil field or something. And so the description we get is basically of a volcano on fire, very much on the order of like the oil wells that were on fire that Saddam had set at the end of Gulf War I, right? Took them weeks to put those things out. And we think that something like this could occur in which uranium is vaporized, injected into an oil field, and the whole thing then erupts into flame, which pollutes the jet stream for 9 passes around the planet, or approximately 18 weeks. Now, if that is the case, if that actually occurs, even if it's plutonium, you have a very finite window that you have to deal with here in the United States or anywhere on the planet. And what is necessary to do, and from my training at the War College and old Cold War era, I know that this is how you really need to proceed with it. You can stay healthy. You need to filter your air coming into your house because you don't want to breathe it. You don't want to ingest this stuff in any way, shape, or form. It'll be okay to take a portion of your yard or front porch or something and use that as the area that you wash everything down. So anything coming into the house gets washed down. Shoes are taken off and left outside the house after they're washed. And any clothes you can leave outside and use just for going in and out work well. So in other words, have a pair of coveralls that you wash down each time. Let them sit out and dry if that's feasible.